Welcome back to the Grow Your Moving Company podcast, Tighten Up Tidbits, with my co-host, co-founder, and business partner, Chad Coatney. We are doing these little 10-minute Tighten Up Tidbit episodes to answer the questions of Tighten Up training users, as well as discuss topics that are on the front of our mind and our day-to-day operations of our moving companies. And basically, we try to keep these to 10 minutes or less. So if you have questions, submit them to us. Otherwise, we're going to read some right now. What do we got here today, Chad?
All right. We have a question from Tyler and Keta from Goal Line Moving. He wants to know crating how-tos. What do you charge for crating and how do you go about pricing this? Just watch the video on how to create a marble top. Suggestions for companies who have never done crating services. And crating, for those of you that don't know, is building a custom wooden crate to put fragile items in. It's good for marble, stone, granite pieces, big glass tops, some artwork that could be very high value, could be statues, could be
Taxidermy.
grandfather clocks, just anything that really is like super high value or super sentimental to the customer that, they would be very upset if something happened to it. And you want to take the extra precaution to build a custom wood crate for the item.
Yeah, deer heads. I mean, for any of those sickos out there that would kill Bambi and hang them on their wall. I'm just kidding. Do what you want to do if you like to kill poor innocent forest creatures. But yeah, those make for good crates. Chandeliers are another one. So, if you're just starting off with crating, it is an essential part of getting high-end moves and moving, really nice homes. They're going to need that kind of work done. It is the safest way to protect unusual or extremely fragile things. I would suggest finding somebody in your area to third party source that out to and contract with a local third party company. There's companies that's all they do is work with moving companies to offer crating services or, pianos, billiard tables, things like that you may not come across every day. They're just called third party services. Maybe there's another term for it that I'm not thinking of, but it's there's a lot of companies in most big cities that will do that. Sometimes it's just a single one-man band that'll come out and do it for usually $300 to $500 is usually what you pay. They bring all the materials out, you schedule them for the day of your customer's move, and you just tell the customer, you add a fee on there for whatever they charge, or if you wanted to mark it up, you could do that too, depending where they're at and what's competitive. But that is what I would recommend is the simplest approach. As you get bigger and more advanced, you can learn how to do it yourself or get somebody, hire somebody internally that can do crating. It can be a little time intensive if you don't know what you're doing. But the third party guys have it down to a science, and you could ultimately train somebody how to do it up to a science or find somebody to work for you that can do it. We actually have a video that we did in Tighten Up training on how to do crating if you do want to learn how to do it yourself. But otherwise, find out what their cost is. And I just pass that along to the customer, and it's a crating fee. But what about you, Chad? Do you have any other ideas?
Yeah, so I used to think it was a good idea to do the crating in-house. We used to build the crates ourselves. I actually used to build them, and kind of how we just figured out the pricing is like we got an idea of how long it would take to build a crate, and we kind of just like 3x'd it. So if it was like $100 with labor and materials, then we would charge $300 for it. And then there was a time where I built a custom crate for a chandelier that was $75,000 chandelier, and we were moving it from Miami to my area here, the other coast. I built this nice, beautiful crate, and then I went to Lowe's or Home Depot and I bought this big, heavy-duty hook to put in the top. And the guys crated up nice, drive. They get to the unload at this beach house, and this is like a movie actor that we're moving. And they open up the crate, and the chandelier was sitting at the bottom of the crate. The hook that I bought had straightened and it dropped the chandelier, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So after that,
How
we
much was
quit
that
building
claim?
crates.
Was it totaled? Was that an insurance claim?
So weirdly enough, it was like he got an estimate for $2,000 to fix it, and like he never even called us back about it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we got lucky on that one. But after that, I just said, screw it. It's not worth the headache. Let's leave it up to the professionals. And so we third party it now. And we have a guy, we know what he charges. Usually for, smaller things like this, it's like let's say like a 2 feet by 2 feet. It's about $150 crate. And then big TVs, he's going to charge about $300. So we just add a couple $100 onto it as a fee, whatever he's going to charge. And that's how we do it. and then it's out of our hands.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's all, that's the best way in my experience. You're too busy usually growing your moving company to try to do it yourself, unless you get somebody in there that works for you that really knows what they're doing. I think that's probably smart, but I think I've heard other movers, they have those people in house and they charge like $13 a cubic foot. Somewhere around there is a rough estimate. Otherwise, figure out what the materials cost and the time that it takes and bill accordingly to that.
Yeah, and you got to really think like, I mean, unless you have a lot of demand for custom crating, which I know some people do, but most of us don't. It's not worth the risk of having your guys using a table saw in house and, God forbid they freaking cut their finger off trying to build you a $300 crate when you could just leave it up to somebody else that's going to build it better. And I mean, if you're building 1 or 2 crates a month, it's hard to have that person in house like be consistent on it too. So it's just better to sub it out, I think, and charge extra on top of that and let it be someone else's problem. Something I will add too, we're starting to do any TVs over 75 inches, we are requiring a custom crate to be built for them, or we're getting a release of liability just because it's just too freaking risky nowadays.
Yeah, and that could be a topic for another one of these, but there is an art to using the TV box. You need the foam corners for TV boxes. You need pads. I actually was just talking about this on our ops meeting earlier. One of my employees, my dispatcher, had the idea. A company called King's Moving up in Lansing, Michigan. Shout out to King's if you listen. He said that they use different colored pads for their TVs because movers have a habit of not unboxing TVs and leaving the box with all of the materials and the pads inside of them. So one way to keep track of your pads for things that may get overlooked that go into boxes, different colored pads. I thought that was interesting. Thank you, Kings, for the inspiration. But yeah, this all reminds me, Chad, of another business I want to start with you that we can talk about later. But when we were moving our warehouse, the punch list of moving out of our last office was extensive. And I was like, man, maybe I bet you every office that moves needs to go through a punch list and replace light bulbs and hang fire extinguishers and do all this stuff. But maybe we start a business where we bring in like a maintenance crew that does the office punch list move out, and then they could also do our claims and our crates and things like that. So if you want to start that after this call, let me know.
Yeah, I think I've got enough on my plate with all the other businesses you forced me to start. But no. And one thing we're thinking of doing is building reusable TV crates.
I know, didn't somebody we know do that? Kurt or Tim or somebody?
Yeah, I don't know, but I think we're gonna build some where, the side will hinge open and it'll have latches and things like that we can reuse and, rent them out for $100. It's even cheaper than I think our TV box, or right about the same price, and then keeps the TV protected for the customer and it's reusable. So it's kind of a no-brainer. I just gotta to get them and get enough for each truck and make sure we're using them.
Yeah, or we could start another business where we work with a manufacturing plant and sell. Okay, all right, all right, guys. Well, that's a wrap then for this episode of Tighten Up Tidbits, a segment on the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. We hope this was helpful, and let us know your questions for the next one. Until then, tighten up.
Tighten up.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. If you'd like to learn more about any of the sponsors listed on this show, want to apply for the next Moving Titan retreat, or interested in owning or working for Two College Brothers franchise, drop me a line at wade@twocollegebrothers.com. Moving out. Have a great day.